everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies Podcast. We are really excited today. We have a bonus episode today. We are talking about the show Sweet Magnolias, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Ann is here.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, and we have a special guest that's going to be helping us out with this coverage. Austin Burke is here, and Austin, why don't you introduce yourself to the Hallmarkies and what you do on your channel and all that fun stuff.
Well, Rachel was over on my channel recently. We talked Sweet Magnolias. I'm so excited to be here. I have a YouTube channel, Austin Burke. I talk movies and streaming and normally focus on Netflix. This is my first time tackling a show like this, but I'm really excited, and I've been following you guys for a long time.
Yes, we're so excited to have you on, and hopefully this Christmas, if we get any Christmas movies,
right? I'm worried.
We will be able to have you on. Well, and hopefully even more before that. But we're so excited to have you here and to be talking about Sweet Magnolias. And we wanted to cover this because it is based on books written by the same author who wrote Chesapeake Shores. And so, that is definitely something that we thought a lot of the Hallmarkies fandom would be interested in. And so, Anne, were you pretty excited going into this?
I was really excited when I first heard about it. And then when I saw the casting, I was even more excited. Yes. Because like you guys know, Rachel and I both love Brooke Elliott because we both watched Drop Dead Diva. So I love her. Yes. And I love Joanna, and Heather's new to me, but I love her now. So yeah, I was excited.
Yeah, that was my biggest excitement coming into the show because I love all three of these leading ladies so much. I absolutely love Brooke Elliott. I love Drop Dead Diva. Is one of my favorite shows. I love Reba. Show. I love Joanna Garcia. I love Heather Headley. She's an amazing singer. So if they ever do a musical episode, I can't wait. But but Austin, you felt a little bit this is a little out of your comfort zone, you'd say.
I didn't know much going in. I knew a bit about Heather Headley, Joanna Garcia. I've seen her around. You mentioned Reba. I'm like, oh, that's where she's from. But really, everyone within this cast, I didn't have good insight on going into this show. Some of the performances were surprising. A couple of them I didn't love, and we'll get into it. But I went in a little bit blind. So it's kind of fun doing that, though. You know, you're always so aware of who's in this and who's in that. But for me, I'm like, oh, it's a bunch of new people.
Yeah. So we're going to go over each of the first 5 episodes. We're going to talk a little bit about it. And then, but if you want a spoiler-free overall review of the season, then check out my review with Austin on his channel, and I'll put a link in the description. People can take a look at that. So this will be spoiler-filled, and we'd love to hear your comments in the comment section or on Twitter. Let us know what you think of the show and how you feel about it overall. How do you think, Anne, it compares with Chesapeake Shores?
Ooh, I knew this question was coming. Okay. Most people know we aren't the biggest fans of Chesapeake Shores. I think it's similar in its family friendly, small town show. That's the part that's similar. I think the parts that are different is this show, Netflix does a great job with diversity. This show definitely has more diversity. It's definitely more Southern show. Chesapeake Shores, is in a town, New England. So this one has a more Southern feel, which personally I love because I'm from Georgia originally. So that really speaks to me. And so those are kind of the elements that make it different. And it focuses on 3 women instead of like that one whole family. But, there are definitely similarities. I think so far, I definitely like this one better, but I've seen more episodes of Chesapeake Shores. The first season of Chesapeake Shores wasn't, so bad. So you never know. So, but yeah, I enjoyed this one more for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Chesapeake Shores, it is actually technically in Maryland, so it's more mid-Atlantic, but which would make me crazy because they act like going to Pennsylvania is a million miles away.
Yeah, they do.
Like, you can't move to Pennsylvania. We'll never see you. And I'm like, it's like 2 hours away. What's wrong with you? But anyway, but yeah, Chesapeake Shores is just about one family, which makes it a little bit different. And also, it just doesn't handle conflict nearly as well as this show. Yeah. That's my biggest problem with Chesapeake Shores is how they sort of tantalize you about, oh, we're gonna have this great conflict, and then they're like, no, we're not. That's frustrating. So this is much better. but yeah, we'll see it where it goes, because you're right, the first season of Chesapeake Shores was better. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, if you want to see me turn into a crazy person, I'll put the links down to our Chesapeake Shore coverage.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so let's started talking about episode 1. So basically in this episode, we have the starts out with Dana Sue. She fires her chef at the restaurant for drinking, and her car gets keyed. So Austin, what did you think about Dana Sue in this first episode?
I told you I've been watching Kitchen Nightmares a lot recently. Don't know why. My wife and I have been all over that show. So seeing this aspect of Sweet Magnolias, I'm like, oh, I can get into this. Dana Sue, she's a character that has a lot going on, right? Yeah. A lot of, and throughout the show, we see that all people, for the most part, they're trying to do is help her, but a lot on her shoulders. So you're stressed out seeing how much she has to handle, and then how she goes about handling it. You're just wanting things to go good. And when you get that moment between her and what's his name that she ends up firing, you're just like, oh my goodness, this is really starting out with a bang. And you're curious as to who's going to come in and take his place. So, and I told you in our spoiler-free review, this was one of my most intriguing plot points of the show, was what goes down in Dana Sue's kitchen. So I really enjoyed the beginning of her storyline.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Anne?
Yeah, I was kind of like, okay, wow, this is going right for the bit here with this part of the storyline anyway. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I don't know, it just kind of started in a way I didn't expect. And I was like, well, she's already, in for a hard ride, it seems, from the beginning. Mm-hmm. But I bet it was interesting. I was definitely like, what's going on? And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had said, Austin, in our piece that you felt like Dana Sue was kind of unlikable. Did that come later, or did you feel like, I don't know, she was tough from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in this first episode, you get a peek into it. But as we go, especially when we get the new chef, and we'll get to that, it's a lot of, we're just trying to help you, this and that. She shuts out her daughter after the fall happens. And I'm just like, okay, you have a lot of people really trying to push you in the right direction, and you're shutting them out. And I understand because a lot on her shoulders, right, with what she's doing. Mm-hmm. But that didn't, for me, come until like maybe episodes 3-4 in the season.
Yeah. Well, so you have Eric that is her sous chef and pastry chef, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's the best.
Yes, I love so him.
Good. And he's very good at his job, and very attentive. And I don't know, did you feel, Anne, that they were kind of setting up that that was a possible love interest between Eric and Dana Sue?
Oh, between them?
Yeah.
I didn't think so. Not between them. I thought it was going to be between Helen and him.
Yeah, I felt a little bit of that, but then when they went on full on Ryan with Helen, and then he kept doing all these cute little, like, making all these cute recipes and stuff. So I was like, is he interested in Dana Sue? But then they have,
I can see how you would think that.
Later on, they have her, we'll talk about next week, but she gets interested in this farmer person. So I'm like, maybe I just read that wrong. What were you thinking with Eric, Austin?
Well, I thought for sure. I mean, eventually we get to Eric and Helen's kind of relationship, and I'm rooting for that. And then it just kind of cuts off, and I was a little bit bummed out. I saw really just a really good friendship between Dana Sue and Eric. Just a great chemistry there that I never saw turning into a relationship, but it's probably one of my favorite relationships from the show. And a lot of it has to do with just the fact that he is so likable. He's such a good guy. And every time he was on screen, I'm like, oh, I root for him. You know?
Yeah, I did too. I liked that actor. I don't know who the actor is for Eric, but I liked him, and I could have seen, I guess, him with either. So it'll be interesting to see maybe season 2 what they do with Eric. but yeah, I think that what's interesting about Dana Sue is you have such a likable actress in Brooke Elliott, at least in my opinion, and she is forced to be this leader to so many people, and I think that maybe is part of the reason why you start getting some of that maybe a little bit more unlikable traits, because it's really hard for women when they're put in those kind of leadership roles sometimes, because people want them to be the ooey gooey mother. People want them to be, this kind of, and like the very same attributes that are sort of admirable in a man come off as, unlikable in a woman, which is really hard. And so I think that's maybe what's going on with her character. And so it's really interesting to see, because she's a single mom. She's, like you said, Austin, there's a lot going on with her. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to see kind of what they continue to do with that character, because it's an interesting character.
I do like how she takes control, though. It's just constant, like, who the boss is in this situation. It always feels like she's on top of things. And I like how they're not, the main trio, they're not afraid to call each other out and go at each other. And I feel like she was always the one doing that. And I'm like, yes, that's what you need to do. They're keeping each other in check. And that's what I think made the show run, was that relationship.
I feel like, I can't remember what episode it was in when she was talking about her breakup with Annie's dad, and they're like, that's how you remember that? Like, I did great. It was easy. They're like, that made me laugh. And I think what's great about these kinds of shows is they're very sort of escapist and warm and comforting. And did you think, Anne, that they got that tone kind of right?
Oh, I think so, definitely. And that's what I expected when I went into it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be like more feel good, and I can enjoy it. I kind of can know what's going to happen, sort of. And I'm going to be able to relax and watch it. I'm not going to be like on the edge of my seat and, like whatever, like with some Netflix shows. And so, but I was looking forward to that. I love a nice feel good show.
Yeah, and I think it was even heightened by the fact that this is, like, we're all in quarantine and whatever.
Yeah,
like,
The
idea of just having like gathering with your two besties and hanging out every, like, that's so, it feels even more escapist than it would normally feel.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
And how do you think, Anne, this show compares to Virgin River?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think it's similar. Like, we got this small town, everybody knows your business going on, which Virgin River is very similar to Heart of Dixie. Heart of Dixie is just in a southern town, and this is in a California town. But it's similar. But like you said on the review with Austin, I think Virgin River goes into a darker place at some points. But it definitely focuses on small town and romance and community, which this show certainly does. So yeah, I think it's definitely similar in some aspects. I mean, for Netflix, I would say those two are definitely like in a similar, since they don't have a big group of these shows, they're in like the same genre for them.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about well, we also have with Dana Sue in this episode, she finds out that her daughter Annie has this rogue Instagram account, and that's like the bad dark side of the town. I felt like this was kind of dropped. I feel like we never really heard about it again. The account.
That's true. Yeah, they didn't really. At least I haven't seen it again. Yeah.
But I don't know. What did you think about Annie, Austin? If in this, just starting out, what do you think about Annie?
Well, you didn't. You mentioned it in our review together. You didn't expect this show to kind of hit on the teens as much as we did the adults. But man, they really went for it. I mean, Ty had his storyline, Annie had her storyline, and the Instagram account. I mean, that really is something that's dropped. I think it was just there to cause a bit of conflict in the beginning. Then, we're going to move away from that. But it's really the relationship between those core kids that carries on. And at times, I mean, there were episodes where it's at the forefront. I mean, that's what they're focusing on more than anything in his baseball games and whatnot. But I liked her introduction, and I liked everything we got between her and her mom. I thought all of those conversations were really good, keeping each other in check. And I ended up really liking her character. But it was a solid introduction, just some plot points that I wish we would have hit on a little bit later.
Yeah. Ian, did that surprise you how involved the teenage characters were?
Yes, I actually forgot to mention that when we were talking about Chesapeake Shores, the children are small and little, and they don't really have any storyline most of the time. And I was surprised by that when I watched this, but I was like, unlike Rachel, I like teen dramas and teen stuff storylines. So I was like, oh yes, teen storyline. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah. So it brought even more to it because I wasn't expecting it. And they're actually like, pretty, I guess they're all in high school, I think. So, so like real teen stuff going on.
Yeah.
I thought it definitely brought something that Chesapeake Shores doesn't have at all because of the age of the children.
Yeah. What I don't like is, Austin, you may be confused by that comment. What I don't like is like sullen teenagers who want to make everybody's life horrible. Like things like Edge of 17. I get it's a good movie. It's not for me.
Okay.
I can't. It's too, I don't know. I don't like it. But anyway, those kinds of shows, I just struggle. But when it's all mixed together, it's fine. With normal functioning humans that aren't miserable to be around. But yes, so then we have, we find out that Kyle, Maddie's son, likes Annie basically, and that he wants to be in theater. And he's also the nicest to Noreen, who is his new stepmom, and well, almost step fiance. I don't know what you call it, but whatever.
Nobody knows.
And yeah, we didn't. The Maddie, she's dealing with the breakup of her marriage, and you see her with the lawyer, and so that's Joanna Garcia, and Helen is her attorney, and so she has 3 children. And what did you think, Austin, of Maddie in this beginning episode, and her sort of dealing with her kids and this breakup and everything?
She's going through it. I mean, it's a tough thing she's going through. Really all throughout the show with the scrutiny she's facing from the town, and they see her when we get into it with what happens in the second relationship. I don't know how far along that is. But her introduction, and I said this in our other review, she's just glowing every time she's on screen. She's so likable and wonderful. And I'm just like, even through all of the hardship that she's going through, she was actually the character I gravitated towards the most at the beginning, because it's like she has so much to balance, and the relationship with her sons is going to be a tough one because you have the dad situation. I mean, when you're going up against Jamie Lynn Spears, it's tough. She's pretty popular. So that's a relationship I was looking forward to seeing how the mother-father thing was going to play out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think they did a good job with her and her kids. I think they feel like those might be her kids, and that part of it worked. We'll talk a little bit more when we cover some of these other episodes, that the Bill, the ex, was a little bit of a struggle, at least for me. And yeah, I mean, these kinds of divorces are really just tough. I mean, it's just a lose-lose situation. And so, that's hard to watch, but you want conflict for your characters. You want them to be growing and changing. And so we find out at the end that Helen has purchased Sweet Magnolias, this old house, and they're going to turn it into a spa, and they're trying to convince Maddie to go in with them and run it together. And so that's kind of exciting. And what did you think, Anne, of Helen and Heather Hadley?
Oh, I thought she did a great job. I loved like what she brought to it, just her character and how she was confident, and she had these stylish clothes. And who doesn't want a friend who's an attorney? I mean, I wish I had a friend who was an attorney. Good thing to have in your back pocket. I just thought she played the character so well, and she just really brought something really great to it. And she's kind of navigating, a single life in the beginning, and a want for, possible children and things like that. And so she had a different view than the other women. I thought she did a great job in what she brought, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I thought she was great. She did such a good job in this role. And and I thought all three women had great chemistry. And I think that was the key to making the show work, is you really felt like they were all friends. Would you agree, Austin?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's an element that, if it doesn't work, the show doesn't work, right? Sure, some of the story is predictable and you can see where the characters are going, but you're here for Sweet Magnolias. Now, one thing I will say is there wasn't as much conflict within that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We kind of get them together at the beginning. This is how they meet up, obviously, how they have these conversations because they're working on this project, but it just kind of comes together seamlessly, and not a lot of conflict there. So that's something I'm hoping continues when we get into other seasons, and who knows, maybe in the final 5 episodes.
Yeah, me too. And so then we had the next episode was called United Front. And this episode, we start out with Helen is basically finding guardians for these 2 little girls that are, the parents have died in an accident. And so she's interviewing their 2 main candidates and trying to figure out which one to and really there's not a whole lot of sort of little side plots in this show. Like most stuff is continuing onward, but this is one case of just sort of this little one just for this episode with her. And so that was good. I liked that.
Yeah, I thought it was sweet.
Yeah. And then we have Ty. He's struggling to stay focused with his baseball. He's really angry at his dad. Noreen and his dad are trying to be supportive, but it's distracting because he's so upset. And what did you think, Austin, about Ty and his baseball?
I get it. Okay. When it comes to the actual baseball, and I mentioned this earlier, there were a couple of things about it. I'm just like, maybe that's not the most realistic thing I've ever seen. And there's this one bully character that keeps coming after Ty and causing issues, he does some things in the latter half of the season. I'm just like, and he was so overboard, like overly dramatic. I didn't really buy that, but I get his struggle because it's hard to focus on something you're putting your all into, especially when your coach has a relationship with your mother.
Yes.
I can see that struggle. So at the end of the day, I enjoyed that storyline, but there were a couple things in there that I was nitpicking along the way.
So, Anne, we haven't talked about Coach Cal and and Maddie yet. What did you think about Justin Bruning? He's a Hall star.
Yes, he is a Hall star. I was thinking about that. Oh yeah, I've seen his movie, one of his movies at least. Justin Bruning is, of course, he's a beautiful human being. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't care about gushing. He's pretty. Okay, the man is beautiful. So you can't really complain about looking at him. But I thought that the way, what he brought to the show was good. I thought him and Joanna have good chemistry. Yeah. And I thought his character did what they wanted it to do. So,
Yeah, in this episode, he's trying to kind of balance Maddie and Bill. And first, he doesn't invite Bill to the parent meeting, because Ty doesn't want him to. And so it's just Maddie. So there's already that kind of chemistry between them. And I mean, Ty, I felt like his actions were reasonable. And so, I mean, I think as opposed to some teenage angst where it's just like, what is wrong with you? Like, calm down. Where, like, if your parents were going through this, like, it's legitimate.
It's reasonable.
It's reasonable, which I appreciated. We also have over at Dana Sue's restaurant, we have this, I guess you'd call him a sous chef, I guess, like the younger chef. He was a weird character to me. Did you feel that? Like, what? He was snooping around. He's like, but even as we're going forward, I thought he was a strange character.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen, a certain amount of episodes, and I'm just like, it kind of seems like, what's his purpose? Like, he's just kind of like, what's the purpose of him being in this show? Like, they guess they're yet to reveal certain things, but he definitely seemed strange, and I was like, where's his place? And
and he's like snooping around in this episode. He's acting weird. Like, what's wrong with you?
It's a character I haven't even thought about, and that just tells me that what's his role, because he's literally just there, and he interjects in conversations, and he's like, well, actually, and I'm just like, dude, why are you here? Can we give everyone else time to shine, because I like Eric a lot more. So I haven't even thought about that guy. It's a good point.
Yes. And we also get introduced to Cece in this episode. She's a young lady at the high school, and she likes Ty. And Kyle tells Cece that Ty likes High School Musical. And so she dresses up like Sharpay, which was interesting because I don't know. It's not like she's a character that's not connected to any of the three ladies. So I was kind of surprised to see her get such an arc, I guess, as one of the teenagers. But yeah, I can't even remember why Kyle does that. Just to pick on his brother. He's mad.
I think so. I think just to kind of mess with him and kind of just pick at him.
Yeah. She dresses up like Sharpay and tells Ty that at the post-game pizza place. And so you feel bad for her because everybody's teasing her and everything. But Ty, he's a good guy. He's nice. I liked that. He was like, stop bugging her.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't just like totally just make her like a whole scene and make her so embarrassed.
Yeah. It would have been easy to make him kind of the unlikable jock.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But I thought he was pretty nice about it. So that was good.
That was good. I was not expecting that, and I was glad.
Yeah.
Well, thinking about it, that's possibly an arc I could have done without. Not that the show was extremely long. I mean, it's probably about 8.5 hours total, but there were a couple of story arcs where I said, if we would just, maybe we could trim this down to 8 episodes, maybe not 6, but that was one, didn't feel disjointed, but maybe a bit unnecessary, if that makes sense for me.
I wonder if what they were trying to do is make Cece kind of like Helen's child character, because she ends up becoming involved with her in the legal mock trial or whatever. Maybe. And so since she was the only one that doesn't have a child, maybe that's what they were thinking. But yeah, I can mentor. I can see that she does kind of stick out because she's just sort of this random person that we're following that doesn't have any connection with our three leading ladies. So it's interesting. So 3's called Give Drink to the Thirsty is what it's called. And so this episode, we have some major flirting going on between Maddie and Cal. And she calls him up because her plumbing isn't working. And the only person she could find,
of course, Very Hallmark-esque here.
Yes.
The only person that can come is the hunky guy.
The only thing she knew to do to be a Hallmark is to get in like a minor fender bender with him.
That's true. That's true.
I have yet to find love through a vehicle accident, but according to Hallmark, it happens all the time.
Very true. Yeah.
and so yes, so she calls him over, and I think that I like about Cal is that he is so like confident about what he wants and his life. Like that's so sexy, such an attractive quality. He's just like, this is what I want out of the relationship. If you're ready, let's go for it. I think that's really great. In addition to being gorgeous. He takes his shirt off, and it's very very exciting.
Women driving down the street like, oh my gosh.
Yes. and so we also get introduced to Pastor June in this episode. And Helen was talking to Pastor June, and I know you particularly like Pastor June. Anne, we were talking.
Yeah,
I
did.
Was nice.
And I thought they had a good. She brought
character.
a nice side. Yeah.
Helen was basically just renovating this episode. She's not doing a whole lot in this episode, and so then Dana Sue is struggling. She gets an unlawful termination lawsuit from Brad from the chef that she fires. So that is kind of her her arc in this episode. And so let's talk about Noreen. She was kind of one of the bigger roles in this episode. So Noreen, she really wants to support Ty, and she's wearing Team Ty shirt. She's cheering loud in the stands, and it's causing conflict. And basically they ask her to not come to the games anymore. What did you think of Jamie Lynn in this role, Austin, and what did you think about this whole arc with Noreen?
Well, Noreen she's doing everything she can. She's kind of stuck in a bad situation, and she is trying her best to build that relationship with the kids. My issue with that relationship, it's not even on Jamie Lynn. It's just I didn't love their chemistry together.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit. It could be the age gap between the two, and it could be the fact that I didn't think he was very good. I didn't think Chris Klein was all that good in the role, and that could have brought her down with him. But as a character, she is, even though unlikable situation, she's kind of likable because she's really, really trying. So I respected that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, I guess in Reba, Joanna Garcia wasn't playing anyone that had an affair or anything, but she has she has a young pregnancy unplanned in the Reba, and now here's this she is dealing with this character with Jamie Lynn in this show. I do think that the age difference between her and Chris Klein did hurt that. It just felt so awkward to me.
Yeah, it did to me. And my question is, how old are we supposed to think Noreen is? What in the show? Yeah. What is she supposed to be? I don't even know.
I don't know either. I really don't.
Because they were saying how she was closer to the kid's age, obviously, than she is his age. But I'm like, okay, well, how old is she? And I don't know. Yeah.
She's supposed to be. She, I guess, was his nurse. Mm-hmm. At the practice, and so you figure if she was a nurse, she has to be like at least 23, right?
Yeah,
23, 24.
Yeah,
I definitely got that feel. In real life, she was born in 91, so
She's the same age as me. Okay, so she's like 29 in real life.
Yeah, that's right. And but I'm guessing, somewhere between around 25 is what I got the feeling of.
Yeah, that's what I was guessing. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah. And so I think that that her character is, you feel bad for her because she obviously doesn't have really any friends. She doesn't seem to know anybody else in town aside from Bill. And she, is pregnant, and that's hard. And and it seems like Kyle is kind of her only friend.
Yeah, which is pretty sad. Yeah.
Oh, Kyle.
Oh, Kyle's so sweet.
I know. But you gotta, I think what makes her likable is she's the only one that is actually, I think, really paying attention to Kyle and like reading the place and talking to him about it. And so, she's really cute, and she wants to support Ty, and she's cheering and everything, and that's such a nice gesture. That it's it's interesting. But I can see Ty's point as well, how that is distracting, and he's still trying to deal with everything, and so I can understand that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when she was cheering, I was like, I wanted to look away from the screen. I felt so awkward. I was like, please stop. This is like nails on a chalkboard. Like, I feel so I just feel so bad, like awkward. And I can tell it'd be very distracting. Like this woman who you pretend you don't want to pretend know exists. And she's like yelling at you when you're trying to concentrate at your game and wearing a shirt that says Team Ty.
Yeah.
It's over the top.
Did either of you have divorced parents or deal with anything like this?
I didn't personally.
I didn't. My uncle was in a situation like this, and I will say that my brother and I were very not nice to that woman when she came to our graduation. She was pregnant, and my mom said, "Oh, will you guys let her like sleep in your room?" And we were both like, "No."
Yeah.
So we were just, so I felt that much angst as an uncle, like it was removed from me. I can only imagine as a teenager, what this feels like to have your personal attack on your own family. Like that would just be very difficult. Just very hard.
Yeah. And it seemed like this was all pretty fresh. And so you wonder how it was probably, a lot of it was probably kept from the kids and sort of pounced on them once it all kind of came out. And so who knows how long that they've been even known about this, and all of a sudden you've got not only your parents splitting up, but you've got a new, the woman's pregnant, and you've got a new brother coming, and all of that. That's a lot to deal with. So, all right. So then the episode 4 is called Lay It All Down. And this is where we get Dana Sue. She passes out because of a blood sugar problem. And Austin, what do you think about that?
So I liked what it did for that story. I mentioned this to you as well. So when she passes out, there's a moment when the characters start rushing, and I rewinded it a little bit, and they rush like kind of before she falls. So I think the director needed to step in and say, give it a little time. Don't run before you're supposed to run. It felt off. That scene felt execution-wise off. But the actual scene and, her taking a bit to come to terms with that, but eventually she does, I thought was played out very well. But you're worried for her because, oh my gosh, she just passed out in the middle of the kitchen. So you're as frantic as the characters around her. So I like the way that they did that.
Yeah, I did too. And it was interesting because her mom died of diabetes.
Yes.
And so the fact that Annie now sees that her mom is sick with the same thing, basically with blood sugar problems. I don't know if it was officially verging on diabetes, but not, is diabetic,
Yeah.
but not actual diabetic. But that's obviously really scary for Annie. And I thought it was a really good scene when you see Annie getting all the sugar out of the pantry, and that whole conversation I thought was well done. And because I think if you are going to have teenage characters, I think you need to treat them like actual humans and not like I don't know, that they're somehow kind of less than because that's what drove me crazy when I was a teenager, when it was sort of treated like my opinion didn't really matter, that I couldn't think things through myself. That drove me crazy. And so here you have Dana Sue wanting to reassure her daughter, but then you have a moment where her daughter's saying, no, I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to tell you what to do. And I don't know, I liked it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I like that too. Something different. It's a role reversal, kind
of.
She was trying to take control, and
because of what had happened with her grandma, it makes sense. And I definitely related to this just because I recently had a little bit of a health scare with my blood pressure. And when you're single, there's a little bit, I think, scarier, because you're just so used to doing everything alone. You're so used to, and when something like that happens, you have to kind of rely on people in a way that you don't normally have to, if that makes sense. And so I definitely connected with that story. And she's really independent. She's having a hard time giving up maybe a little of that independence.
Yeah, she does not like people worrying about her and doting on her. She's like, just stop. And then some of her anger comes out, which they could have dialed back a little bit for her character, I felt. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then we find out that everyone is all up in Maddie's business and knows about Coach Cal and the shirt situation.
Stripping in the driveway.
Because Mary Vaughn is her name. She's the town gossip. And so everyone's nothing. Mary Vaughn is kind of set up as your antagonist against Maddie and the girls. What do you think about her? Did you like her as an antagonist, or was she too over the top? Anne, what do you think?
She was okay. I mean, I guess she played the part she was supposed to play, which is like, do I like this kind of characters? No, but she has to, somebody has to be kind of an antagonist. So I thought she was okay, over the top at times. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were times when I was just kind of like, come on, calm down. It's kind of like a Bryce Dallas Howard's character in The Help. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
Okay, so and this is when Cal actually tells Maddie that he wants this relationship, and that he's ready for whatever she's ready. And I don't know, Austin, did you like Cal and Maddie? Were you into that?
I did. I'm team Cal and Maddie, man. I'm like, let's go. Let's get together. Let's make this thing happen. Because she needs something to make her. I mean, she's been through it. She really has. And you like her character so much. And y'all said, Cal, he's a pretty good looking guy. And I'm like, this is the guy that comes in and, he has an instilled relationship prior, even though that's strained when it first happens. But he already has a relationship with her son. And there's that respect there for him as a coach. And maybe now that can kind of transfer as the guy who's dating. It's going to take a little bit of time, of course. But, man, I was really rooting for that. So as soon as it happened, I'm like, finally, let's go.
Yes. And then we have Bill being all upset about this. He hears the rumors. He sees them at church.
Oh, my gosh.
And then you have Noreen being upset that Bill's upset. which
yeah.
which again I think makes her character again likable, because you have to work extra hard because of what she obviously did to break up this family. You have to work hard to make her likable, but the fact that she's mad at Bill for being a jerk, because he has no reason. Obviously, he's being a total hypocrite.
Total
hypocrite. And so then we have Ryan coming into the scene. He is first threatening to get the house made a historical site, so the renovations stop, because he is the nephew of Miss Francis who sold them the house. And we find out that really it's all just a ploy because he's Helen's ex.
That was so shocking to me.
Yeah. And we get a kiss between them at the end, which I loved. It was amazing.
Yes, I was giddy. Yeah, so good.
So good. Anytime that you get like kind of the sort of the shut up and kiss me, like they're fighting back and forth, ah! It's always great. I love that. But Austin, what do you think about Ryan?
Came out of nowhere. For sure.
Yeah.
Because we were talking earlier, I thought there was a different relationship happening. And then Ryan comes in like, oh, there's this guy. But I won't lie to you. I mean, there's this brightness on Helen's face, especially after that kiss. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get on board with Ryan. I thought his introduction maybe was a bit iffy, but as soon as that moment happened that you all were talking about, I'm like, okay, I'm good with Ryan. Let's see what happens with this.
Yeah, I don't know who the actor is, but I was into it. I thought that he was really charming, and I just really liked Heather Headley in Love. She was so cute.
Yeah,
she was.
I was a big fan. Just bubbly and so excited and everything. She just
like reading her text like a high school girl, like laughing. I was like, so cute. I remember being like that. That's so cute.
Yeah, it was so cute. So our last episode is called Dance First, Think Later. And you find out that there are two events happening at the same time, because Miss Mary Vaughn is being difficult and insists upon having the baseball benefit auction the same night as the Sweet Magnolias grand opening.
That was petty. I was like, okay, this is like, you're over the top right now, like way over the top.
Yeah. Yes. And another character that we see kind of coming in and out is Maddie's mother. She's like a kooky artist, I guess. And she tells him she's going to be doing a painting for the spa. And they're all kind of nervous about it. Like, I don't know what they think she's going to do. But it turns out that they have a sconce that doesn't end up, there's problems with the sconce. Mm-hmm. And so they have a space that needs to be covered. And so they end up putting up the painting, and it's over the sconce area. And it's a sweet magnolia. It's a magnolia blossom or whatever on the painting. And they're all like, oh, you did something normal. So they're all thrilled.
That was sweet. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I would go to the spa. It looked pretty nice.
Yeah, it did.
Really did.
Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. So then you have Bill at the baseball event, Noreen at the spa opening. Mm-hmm. And Maddie tells her, like, we don't have to be enemies, but we're not going to be friends. And so, that was interesting. Mm-hmm. Another chance that you kind of felt sorry for Noreen.
Yeah.
That she goes to the spa. And also sort of Maddie doesn't really take the bait that Mary Vaughn is throwing. She's just like, okay, here's some donations. Do what you got to do. And so that was good. And you also have Maddie's mother buying her a date with Cal in the auction. And that was cute. I liked that. That was. And then they officially decide to start dating. So that's exciting. And I liked that basically they're kind of like, well, kids are just gonna have to deal.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And so the big part of this episode, this is, I would say, like 80% of this episode is about Annie, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And Annie takes photos for the school paper at the baseball event, and then she goes to this after party, which the only thing that was weird about this after party is it's like this big drinking thing, but it's at the school.
Yeah, I was like, what? It's like they would never let you do that at the school. It seems so odd to me. I was like, okay, this is not believable, but hey.
I mean, maybe school parties are different in this small town than my town.
Yeah, I don't know.
But Annie gets drunk. She gets drunk.
Yeah. Oof.
And she ends up, Ty takes her home. And what did you think, Austin, about this with Annie? About this story?
Yeah. It's another example of just, you don't expect them to focus on all of these things with the kids, and seeing, like you said, the alcohol at the school party. I'm just like, I don't know, because I grew up in a small town, right?
Yeah,
so
me too.
Genuinely related with a lot of things about this show. I think some elements that some critics are going to see and say, well, that's not realistic. I'm like, well, y'all didn't grow up in a small, because I'm like Eastern Kentucky. I grew up in a holler, right?
Yeah.
So we were a very small town, and everyone knows everything about each other. And that's exactly how this show was. So you see that thing kind of spark with Annie, and that relationship kind of carries over, and everyone finds out about it. So I didn't know if I was going to like it at first, them kind of focusing on her and the kids more, but I liked it, and I like where it progresses to later on.
Yeah. And I really like the fact that we've gotten really developed characters between Annie, Ty, and Kyle.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit Cece thrown in there, that I don't really know what's going to happen, like where that's all going. Like, and I appreciate that, that they're allowing things to kind of, because one of the problems that Hallmark shows tend to have is they get really nervous about leaving characters in any kind of conflict or any kind of wrongdoing. It's like, well, we gotta tie that up. We gotta finish that up.
Make it right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so almost everything will only last for like 1 episode, 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's really interesting to see these characters kind of growing and evolving, and so what's going to happen with Kyle, and what's going to happen with Ty. And Ty is actually quite the gentleman here with Annie.
That was
and
so sweet.
and so she kisses him, and she's drunk, and she leaves him a message saying,
"Yikes!" I was like, "Oh, kill me now."
Yeah, and I love it. This coming up later, but when Dana Sue sees the message, she's like, "Emoji, emoji, emoji! What's going on here? I don't know." Freaking out. But yeah, and so obviously she's going to regret that. So yeah, I like the actress who's playing Annie as well. She did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I like her.
Yeah.
Overall, I think, except for, we all agree, Chris Klein.
Yeah, I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
I did not think that he was the right person to be in this role.
Yeah.
I just wasn't feeling what he brought.
Yeah, I mean, just because you have to make him a little bit more likable. If he's at some point or another, won over the hearts of 2 of our ladies, like you have to give him a little bit more warmth, I think,
to make it believable that that he did do those things. It's like, did he?
Yeah. And so there we go. That's our first 5 episodes. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover, Anne?
I just wanted to mention how swoon-worthy that first kiss was between Maddie and Cal at the very end of the 5th episode. Yes. I was like, oh, this is really good. This was worth the anticipation.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's always good.
Yeah. They're really good with the kisses in this show.
Yeah, they have lots of kisses. Yeah. Which is not very Hallmark-esque. They have many kisses, which is good. I love that. Hallmark is Hallmark's very light on the kissing. So
Yes. Yeah, especially the movies. So we tend to only get a kiss in the last 30 seconds.
Yes.
Very.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Austin, do you have any final thoughts about these 5
one
episodes?
thing, talking through this with you two, I may even like this more now because I'm realizing how much I cared about all of these relationships. And I mentioned this to you earlier, Rachel. I'm like, I told my wife, I'm like, listen, if you want to watch this with me, I don't mind starting it over. So I'm just throwing that out there. So I think I like this more than I thought.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, my husband would never watch it, but that's because he's just, but that's a big deal for a man to say that. I feel like that's a big deal. And that means that
rewatchable.
It's, good content, and it's, enjoyable and, worth watching again. And I could so see me watching this again with my mom. I'm going to see her next week, and I could totally enjoy just watching this with her. It's just right up our alley.
Because you really could watch it with anybody, because anybody who has friends, anybody who has that you
family,
can relate to it on a work level, you can relate to it on a friend's level, you can relate to it on if you have children, if you've been a child. There's just, anybody can relate to the show, and it's just comforting and fun, and I just love these 3 leading ladies so much.
Yes, they do a really great job.
Yeah, they're incredible, and so I really enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to talking about the next 5 episodes next week. And so if you're listening, please let us know your thoughts on each of these episodes and some of these different plots and what characters you liked, maybe didn't like as much. Put in the comment section or on Twitter. We'd love to talk about it. And so Anne, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at awscott21.
Great. And Austin, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram at The Burkenator, and Austin Burke on YouTube if you guys would like to check out mine and Rachel's review.
Yeah. Yes, we'll have a link to that in the description, so just make sure to check that out. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, so check that out. And if you can please follow the podcast, all of our social media, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast. We'd love to have your feedback. And we also have our patron group, which is super fun. And we really appreciate any support we can get there. We also have our merch store, which has tons of fun designs. So make sure to check that out. I have links for all of that in the description. So let us know what you think. And we'll talk to y'all later. It's so much fun. And bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.